Guys, Joan Ribs here with another act of the Overexplained Silent Ascension 15 run that I've been doing for the last several hours. Feels like my voice is starting to go. Oof. I'm hungry, thirsty. I don't remember what outside looks like. But we're almost through the Spire. I like this. I feel like slaying the Spire should feel like an endurance challenge, right? And I'm sort of getting that right now. In case you've missed the first two parts, I mean, go watch them, probably. They're also on YouTube. But we had a really interesting Act 1 where it seemed like the best option was to exchange our boss relic because there was a path of 4 elites, which if we got a strong boss relic, we could take on. We ended up getting Armory, which was not exactly what I was thinking of, but it got us 2 copies of Backstab, a Dagger Spray, Leg Sweep, and Flying Knee, so we were well equipped for Act 1 elites, and we went and killed 4 of them. The relics we got off them weren't, like, outstanding. They're, like, pretty good. Bottle Tornadoes start with Footwork Plus, Bag of Preparation, a Frozen Egg, so powers we've been taking for the rest of the run have been upgraded. Mango for some max HP, and a Birdface Turn for regeneration. I mean, these are good powers. Yeah, these are good powers. The one issue that they didn't solve was how to deal sustained damage throughout longer fights. At the end of the Act 1 boss, which took a while to kill Hexaghost, we picked up an Astrolabe. We were not offered an Energy Relic, unfortunately, and the Astrolabe transformed a few of our strikes into an Afterimage Plus, Dash Plus, and Concentrate Plus. The game lags when it's in this screen, I swear. That's so weird. And, like, sure, like, that's okay, I guess. And we were able to get through Act 2, still able to kill elites off the back of our immensely strong deck. And the game is seriously lagging in this screen. I wonder if there's a memory leak in that screen. Slay the Spire coding, overexplained. Let's get into the next act, huh? Anyway, we were able to find 1,000 cuts to deal with our sustained damage issue, and now we're in Act 3. So immediately, we see that we're fighting Time Eater. Time Eater is not somebody who punishes us at all for spamming a ton of powers, so our deck is very good against Time Eater. You might think, what about, you know, Cloak and Dagger? Time Eater punishes you for playing lots of cards, doesn't he? And to some extent, he does a little bit. He scales up as you play more cards. But the big thing that Time Eater does, though, is that he ends your turn when you've played the 12th card. And that is cumulative over turns. So if on turn 1 you play 6 cards, on turn 2 he will end your turn when you play the 6th card. And it's problematic if you like end your turn on 10 or 11 cards played cumulative. That can be really nasty, but something that Cloak and Dagger does is let us control how many cards we play each turn. If we want to play 3 cards with 1 energy, we just play our Cloak and Dagger and we're set. So it's actually sort of nice that we're fighting Time Eater, I think. I think that Time Eater and Donu Deca would be very easy for this deck to beat. Awakened 1 would be a little bit difficult, but probably not too bad. In this act, I am going to be avoiding elite fights, not necessarily because I think that the deck cannot beat them, but because I am immensely confident that the deck can beat Time Eater right now, and I have the tiniest bit of doubt about the deck's ability to beat the Giant Head elite fight, and the deck's ability to beat the 2 burn guy elite fight. So, I mean, I think we would probably win those fights, but there is no reason to expose ourselves to that risk when I feel extremely confident that we can beat the Time Eater already, and when we have a path through the act that does not go through any elites, and has plenty of campfires to heal even if something goes wrong. We even get to hit up 2 stores, so we'll have multiple chances to spend our 389 gold that we've been stockpiling throughout the run. Hopefully I don't have to restart my game. I feel like that would be a very awkward, like, interlude in the middle of a video. Seems to be settling down. I don't know. I have no idea what's going on with it. This is the longest I've ever taken to play a run, so maybe there's some sort of memory thing going on with how long it's taking us to play the run. We did take Philosopher's Stone from the Act 2 boss, so enemies will be hitting us harder. I don't anticipate that being a huge issue. I think it's more than compensated for by the fact that we now have 4 energy finally. Like, yeah, we blocked for 45 that turn, and we're attacked for 18, and we output 20 damage. It just doesn't seem like a huge deal, does it? I now have 2 copies of 1,000 Cuts in my deck, making it even more impressive that I'm failing to draw them before the 5th turn. That's quickly becoming farcical to me, honestly. We can go after the Flame Bruiser here. Oh, some of you might be wondering who I'm fighting. This is an enemy who is on the beta branch, but isn't on the live version of the game yet. And he will presumably be added to the live version of the game once they're finished with the art for him. You can see that he doesn't have any animations or anything like that. There are a couple of fights in Act 3 like this. I think Act 3 on the live branch has very little variety of enemies, and so they just serve to mix things up a bit. They're not like, it's not like they're insanely tough fights or anything. They're just, you know, different. So this guy summons minions who attack us and put a burn in our deck, and then the second time they attack us for 25 and they explode, killing themselves if we haven't killed them yet. So yeah, typically I approach that fight just by powering down his minions until I get to a point where my deck is up and running and I can overwhelm him with damage as well, because summoning 19 hit points worth of minion isn't actually a very threatening turn. It's pretty easy for my deck to deal 19 damage and something else. And so every time he spends his turn doing that, I'm getting closer and closer to just overwhelming him. Our options are Concentrate, Slice, and Deadly Poison Plus. I do not think any of these cards are particularly exciting here, and I'm not going to take any of them. Is there anything to comment on, really? Slice is very low impact. We have 4 energy now, so the 0 energy doesn't matter as much. Concentrate, we just don't have enough card draw to support this card and make it good. We also already have one in the deck. We already have a Concentrate Plus in the deck from Astrolabe. And Deadly Poison Plus, honestly, it's a pretty good card. It deals quite a lot of damage. Just it isn't required. We already have damage. It adds a little bit of inconsistency to our deck, so I'd rather not. If the game could stop glitching out, that would be lovely. Decent store. There's a Backflip and a Vajra, which I'm considering buying. The Backflip is so cheap. That's a very good sale price. And Vajra is one of my favorite relics. At the start of each combat, you gain 1 strength. This just does a lot of damage over the course of a fight, especially when you have infinite blades and cloak and daggers like we do. This is one of the relics that interacts supremely well with the things that this deck is doing. There are a lot of relics which interact supremely well with the things the deck is doing, and Vajra is definitely one of them. So the only consideration is what happens at the next store. It might be that we want a card remove as well. I think we are definitely going to another store. Yeah, we're definitely going to another store. It would be nice to get the last strike out of the deck. I don't think it's like really hindering us that much having it there, but you know, it will look prettier to have it gone. Backflip Vajra card remove. The problem is that if we do that, we don't have enough gold to buy a great relic out of the next store. So I think for now we'll hold on to the strike, and then we can remove it at the next store if there's no great relic there. Alright. Fight against a couple of spikers and a repulsor. This is a fight where it would be lovely to draw infinite blades, because attacking the spikers with shivs is just not an appealing prospect right now. I'm gonna put backstabs onto this spiker. He's trying to buff up his spikes, and so killing him before he does that seems ideal. And that's the turn. This fight is not very threatening to us at all. We're easily able to block for more damage than they deal. It's just like a matter of convenience, really. How long is it going to take us to win? And if we let these spikers get out of control with their thorns, it could take quite a long time to kill them. our 1,000 cuts. We have enough block to dagger there. We cannot dagger strike, glass knife rather there. But we can concentrate for 2 AoE damage. Not so bad. And here we can survivor. There's actually a bug that still exists on beta, where if you attack these guys and end the fight, you don't get the thorns damage from them. If you watch, I won't take damage to my block. That exists only if you're playing on a fast mode. It's symmetrical, sort of, because if you use a bite, you can get bites from Act 2 events, which heal you when you attack with them. If you use a bite to end a fight, you won't gain health from the bite, so it's sort of symmetrical. Yeah, I don't know, just something to observe. Here I'm going to take a dodge and roll over a Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger, obviously incredibly strong in our deck, and I've talked about why so much. But dodge and roll just makes more block per card, which is valuable against Time Eater. It makes much more block per card, and yeah, that's nice to do against Time Eater. Against Time Eater, we can kill him a lot of different ways. We can set up our powers and then just block and let him kill himself on caltrops if we want, or we can power him down with 1,000 cuts and Cloak and Daggers and try to play 12 cards in a turn. A few different things we can do. We've got an event where a highly ornamented tomb can be seen on the other side of a floating path. Upon reaching the tomb, we notice a slot for gold coins with a scratched out inscription above it. So we can lose all of our gold here to gain the red mask, and the red mask applies 1 week to all enemies on the first turn of combat. It's not a terrible relic for us. I do not think it's worth 237 gold. We can just get more from that from the next store, and I don't think we have anything particularly threatening in between now and then, so it's not like we need the power now. Hey, we played 1,000 cuts on turn 1. This will be interesting. It's important not to tilt and stuff, because it's just RNG, right? Drawing 1,000 cuts last every single fight is not a reflection of my ability to play the game or anything like that. It's just unfortunate, and there's no point in getting worked up about that. It's sort of comical how poorly we've been drawing 1,000 cuts for the last hour and a half, though. I'm getting a bit of a laugh out of it. We could have actually dealt 2 more damage there if we didn't play Leg Sweep and instead played 2 Defends. I don't think it matters. Often, in any game like this, or any game even closely resembling this, you often have this wave of balance where if you stay on it, the game is very engaging and difficult, and all of your decisions feel like they matter a lot. And if you get behind it, it just feels like you're dying and it's terrible, and then 10 minutes later you're dead. And if you get ahead of it, you have to play the rest of the run, and a lot of your decisions just don't really matter. And I mentioned this right now because we've sort of reached that point. There are not very many ways that we can conceivably lose this run right now. Playing this fight, there aren't very many difficult decisions that I'm making, really. I'm just executing the things the deck does. I just play the cards that I draw every turn, basically. We actually take damage here, which is sort of surprising. But on the other hand, we heal it immediately on turn 1 of the next fight, so not such a big deal. That guy was attacking us for 13 times 4 next turn. Philosopher's Stone is certainly contributing to that a little bit. Alright, so well-laid plans, footwork, and backflip. The well-laid plans and the footwork would both auto-upgrade if added to our deck. Well-laid plans is great. It's a very powerful card. I do not think that it outweighs the strength of footwork here. And backflip is just there's more than enough room in our deck for powers right now. and they're really nice to have against Time Eater because they increase the effect of each card you play, and the Time Eater sort of asks you to have high impact cards when you play cards. The reason that Well-Laid Plans is strong is when you have very specific cards that you want to have on specific turns. And in this deck, it's just like all of our cards block. It just doesn't really matter that much which turn we play them on. So footwork, I think, is considerably better. I need to stop looking at my deck because it's hanging my game when I do so. So I'm going to stop looking at my deck. So I have to look at it. We're going to upgrade the other footwork. Similar logic to why we took the footwork. We just want to get extra output from that card. I'm really sorry that my game is doing this. It's not connected to the internet. Yeah, I don't know. Alright, so this is a fight which offers us a relic. I think we're very, very, very capable of beating it, so I didn't see much reason to turn it down. There also isn't much reason to take it, honestly. I think we could go either way and be fine either way. We want to kill the guy who explodes first. These exploder minions have been changed semi-recently. It used to be that when you killed them, they exploded. Now, after 3 turns in a fight, they will explode. And that's a little bit more menacing. So, getting him dead now instead of 3 turns from now means that he doesn't explode and deal 30 damage to us. And 30 damage is a lot of damage, so that's nice not to have to worry about. This site's a bit of a damage race. We do okay damage. We're getting by just fine. The Caltrops we just put in play will help a bit too. I'm not even going to say it, but you guys know what I'm thinking, right? Because we have 2 cards in our deck that are specifically in charge of dealing lots of damage. And yeah, I mean, you guys know what I'm thinking. Right? I'm sure you guys know what I'm thinking. Okay, anyway. The rest of the deck seems to be doing the job. Okay, not saying anything. As I slowly go insane. So the simple way to win here is just dash, blast knife, and that guy's dead. We get some gold and a gambling chip. At the start of each combat, we discard any number of cards and then draw that many. It's not going to be very relevant because our turn 1 is so crafted. Like, we have very specific things that we do on turn 1. And we're choosing between Tactician, Quick Slash, and Choke Plus. I do not think any of these cards are necessary. I think that Choke Plus is okay, though. It will deal really good damage to Time Eater. Especially with Infinite Blades in play, right? It's always dealing at least, what? It should always deal at least 22 for 2 energy, and on many turns it will deal much more than that. Yeah, okay, we'll take it. I think you can take Choke there, or you can choose not to take Choke there. It really doesn't make a very big difference. Upgrades in the deck at this point, I don't think that these are very relevant. Most of them are like a little bit of extra damage in a fight, or a little bit of extra block in a fight. I'm going to take Adrenaline, just because it's in our turn 1 hand every time, and getting an extra energy on turn 1 is somewhat nice. See what relic we have. A Smiling Mask. So the merchant's card removal service now always costs 50 gold. Again, not very relevant at this stage in a run. Get to pick between Dagger Throw, Outmaneuver, and Deflect. We don't have like a ton of strength or anything, so Dagger Throw doesn't deal a ton of damage. Outmaneuver is still not very impressive for all the reasons that it wasn't impressive in Act 2. I talked a decent amount about whether or not Outmaneuver was good in our deck in Act 2. And the reasons are just that we don't draw enough cards to spend the energy with it on our next turn. We now have 4 energy as well, so gaining more energy isn't even that impactful. If we had like X cards and a well-laid plans, then Outmaneuver would be a lot more inviting, but it's hard to make it do anything right now. Deflect is fine. I think it's unnecessary though, so. I mean, we could take Deflect there and it would be okay. We can also not take Deflect. We've reached a point where the run is just sort of working that way. Let's see. So we're allowed to discard these and draw new ones if we'd like. I don't think we want Distraction. I think a random card in our deck is going to be better on average than Distraction, even though Distraction makes us 1 block from After Image. We're being attacked for 16 this turn, but I don't think we'll have too much trouble fading that. Choke is fine here. Quite good here, in fact. Let's see. We're playing another... Lots of cards. Choke is another card that interacts very, very well with Cloak and Dagger. So... Yeah, okay. Let's go after this guy. This is sort of a weird fight. The front and back guys are both allowed to multi-attack you, whereas the middle guy isn't allowed to multi-attack you. That was a change made, I believe, to alleviate situations which all 3 of them chose to multi-attack you because it was just too much damage. It's sort of bizarre, though. Like, if you know that, then you know to focus the front and back guys, but if you don't, then how could you ever know to do that? You couldn't, basically. So, that's why I'm focusing the front and back guys here. And now we're attacking this guy because that guy has a shield for the turn, so we can't get damage through to him. These guys also regenerate over time. If you don't kill all 3 of them quickly, then they'll come back to life. Not really a super big deal here. We just kill them again. Another trivia piece about this fight is that Feed for Ironclad, it's not a silent card, so irrelevant for this round, but Feed gives you extra max HP when you kill an enemy, right? And it might seem like you could just feed on these guys over and over again since they come back to life. Feed doesn't work on them unless you're killing the last guy in the fight, which is another thing where I'm not sure how you were meant to know that unless you like were told it specifically. I'm not really sure. So I've told you it specifically. Now you know. Yeah. Let's go... I'm gonna go Caltrops Survivor here. Let this guy attack my Caltrops. Then we'll kill him next turn. All of the options there were perfectly fine. I'm pretty sure they were already dead to the 2 shivs that we were guaranteed to draw next turn, regardless. We've been offered a 4th Footwork Plus, and I see very little reason not to take it, so I'm just gonna take it. There's a Piercing Wail here, which is actually quite good against Time Eater, his most threatening turns, especially when we're giving him a lot of strength, which we are likely to be doing. His most threatening turns involve multi-attacks, so Piercing Wail will block for a lot there. Flying Knee, not interested. Footwork is just great. We now have 12 extra dexterity in our deck, if we so desire. I don't think a Poison Potion is better than an Energy Potion here. The Poison Potion just deals... It's actually interesting. If you stack up 2 Poison Potions, they deal a lot more damage. Let's see, what is it? It's 15 damage for 1 Poison Potion on Ascension 11 plus versus 55 damage for 2, I believe. 50 damage for 2? 50 damage for 2, probably. Something like that. No, 55, 55. Yeah. So, yeah, a second poison potion could deal some significant damage, but I just don't think it matters. The energy potion, it's not so much about the output from one energy, it's about if I'm on a turn where I can get to 10 cards played and I really want to get to 12, I can play this and then play a Cloak and Dagger and get to 12. It makes the deck a lot more flexible against Time Eater, so that's why I'm prioritizing that a little bit more. Ooh, Noxious Fumes. Look at that. Look at this hand, by the way. It's a lot of powers, huh? We don't have to be playing After Image first, always. We can go looking for the 1,000 cuts that I keep talking about. Before we play After Image, sometimes it will be slightly better to do so. In that situation, I didn't think that it mattered, really. We have... I'm sorry, how much block right now? We had a dodge and roll active from last turn there, causing us to have an awful amount of block right now. Dodge and roll very, very strong with large amounts of dexterity. Okay, is there a reason to calculated gamble here? I don't see a great one. I don't see much reason not to either, but there you go. Alright, Choke got him dead. A Strength Potion is going to deal considerably more damage than a Poison Potion against the Time Eater. And we have a setup, another Leg Sweep, or a Cloak and Dagger. I think in this situation, Leg Sweep is quite a lot more appealing than Cloak and Dagger. It's just really nice block, good value per card, which is something that you think about a little bit versus Time Eater. And we also need another weak source in our deck. We don't have enough weak in the deck. As you slowly make your way up the twisting pathways, you constantly find yourself losing your way as the walls and ground seem to inexplicably shift before your eyes. The constant whispering voices in the back of your head aren't helping things either. You've met the Winding Halls event, which is quite common in Act 3. In Winding Halls, we get to choose between Embracing Madness, which receives 2 Madness for us, 1 energy card, which makes a random card in our hand cost 0 for the rest of combat and exhausts itself, or we become Cursed. These also, we lose HP for taking the Madness, and we heal HP for becoming Cursed. Madness is typically a pretty bad card to have in your deck. There are some situations where it's good. If you have a deck that you're cycling through a lot, it can be, in fact, very powerful. It can change your deck into a deck which is like okay, into a deck which is actually going infinite and just doing infinite things on one turn because the cards that are relevant cost 0, so you just play them over and over again and keep drawing them. This is not a deck where Madness is good. We're going to, you know, draw it and make a card in our hand cost 0, and then we will, you know, maybe draw that card one more time in the fight, or quite likely never see that card again, because our deck has 42 cards in there right now, right? So adding 2 Madness to the deck is just adding 2 cards that we have to draw, which don't really do anything significant to our deck. Becoming Cursed with Writhe, it sort of sucks to have a curse in your deck. However, the fact that it's innate is actually nice, because we have Gambling Chip, so it will always be in our starting hand, and we'll just discard it. So we'll go in our discard pile, and the first time we'll ever see it is like turn 7, or something like that. We'll have to get all the way through our deck, shuffle all the cards back up, and then we'll start having a chance to draw it for the first time. So it's just not a very relevant curse. The heal obviously doesn't matter, but I just would rather have the curse in the deck than the Madnesses, because I think it's less of a downside. Wow, that's lagging. Ironically, there's a Duvu doll in the store to give us strength from our curse. I think I'll just buy that. Duvu doll's really nice on Ascension 10+, because you have Ascender's Bane in your deck, which is a curse which you can never remove from the deck. And so it gives you a strength all the time. And with a Writhe in the deck as well, now it gives us 2 strength. And that's really nice for this fight that we're about to take. 2 extra damage on every shiv that we play, every attack that we play. We start with 3 strength now, so that's pretty significant. Get rid of the Rise. Got another Noxious Fumes. Noxious Fumes is a great card. It's not super relevant for this deck. We get our backloaded damage from 1,000 cuts plus 1,000,000 cards. That's how we're getting our backloaded damage. We also have so much sustained damage that we don't even really need backloaded damage, I guess. Another thing to consider. Something I want to point out is we've added a lot of powers to our deck now. I'm not sure I can do this without the game freezing, but we've added a lot of powers to our deck now. We've had some turns recently where I've just drawn like a ton of powers and no cards that actually do anything this turn, and that's a concern. That's one nice thing about having a deck of this size, this magnitude, because I can have lots of powers in it and have a fairly low chance of drawing them all at the same time. And it's a nice thing about having this much max HP, because if we have one bad turn, it's okay. We just take some damage and we can heal it at some point. I don't believe we've ever rested in this run, so it hasn't been a concern in this run, but even if it were, you know, it's not that big a deal. We just rest and it's fine. If you're trying to play a smaller deck, like if you're trying for whatever reason to only have 10 cards in your deck or something like that, like you want to go infinite or something, it's really hard to get this many powers in your deck, and so your numbers are just going to be smaller as the fight goes on. You're just going to get less stuff than a deck that has this many cards in it. We take 1 damage, unfortunately. Alright. The Maw. I gotta say, I'm not upset at all that they're adding more variety to the fights in Act 3. There are only so many times that you can fight the Maw before you're ready for something else. We got this guy dead. We also have 60 block, apparently. And we have a pick between Poison Stab, Bouncing Flask, and Quick Slash. None of these appeal at all. I feel like I've explained why these cards, or cards like them, are not very good in this deck a lot of times this run, so I'm just gonna let that go. Let's grab an upgrade on... I think Extra Weak is probably the most influential thing in the deck at this point. We'll grab a Leg Sweep upgrade. And we've got a Time Eater fight for ourselves. Ooh, interesting. We've got the new Wraith form. Wraith form now gains you 3 intangible when played, and at the end of your turn you lose 1 dexterity for the rest of the fight. So intangible makes it so you don't take more than 1 damage from any damage source. This guy's attacking us for 10 times 3 right now, but if we were intangible, that would be 1 times 3. That's a very, very strong power, which we are not going to play right now because it will likely kill us. It's going to take us too long to kill the Time Meter, and we'll be losing dexterity every turn. However, the next time through the deck, when we draw it again, we may want to play that. It's going to be an interesting turn. We have to decide if we're trying to play 12 cards or not. Probably we want to. Let's see what this draws. Cloak and Dagger. So yeah, it should be easy too, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, very easy. Alright, so we'll just play 12 cards this turn. These backstabs hit for 20 with 5 strength from the strength pots we've been saving, the Vajra, the Duvu doll. A lot of damage. And we want to block 36 this turn. Done. And get some more damage in. So he gains 2 strength from us playing 12 cards. It's just not that significant. It's just really not that significant. This turn, we will not be playing Choke, I don't think. This looks like a turn where we play very few cards, then we try to play 8 cards next turn, probably. I think we'll use the energy pot this turn. Might as well use it now when we're getting powers into play, help us get that done. We've still only played 1 footwork, so we don't have all that much dexterity. And I will play the Shiv. I think getting that 4th card played, we're going to want to try to play 8 cards next turn. And we take a little bit of damage from the time meter, but it's not that big a deal. We'll be okay. Wow. We're not playing any cards this turn, it turns out. Alright. We finally got him weakened. So he's attacking for 27. He's weakened more. I think we do go ahead and play a Shiv and a Slice, and then we play 4 cards next turn. Seems fine. Definitely an intimidating fellow, this time eater, but we have so much max HP and everything. We'll be okay. With the weak on him, he's attacking for 9 times 3 right now. I think that will round to, let's see, 14 rounded down. I think I'll go to 11 times 3, right? No. We'll go to 10 times 3 when he gains 2 block at the end of this turn. So we've got plenty of block. Let's get this glass knife damage in. Even without ever upgrading it, that just hit for 26 because we have a lot of strength right now. And we take a little bit of damage, not too much, still at 59 HP. How the time meter fight works is when he gets to 240 or below, he takes the next turn to heal up to half health and cleanse any debuffs that are on him. So there's not much point in when he's at 230 dealing another 100 damage to him the next turn. What we want to do is get him to below 240 so that he wastes a turn healing himself and then kill him from there. And we're getting pretty close. Getting Caltrops in play is very nice here. I think we'll do that. Is it better than Leg Sweep though? It deals a lot of damage is the thing, and it deals damage without us playing cards, which is nice. So I think we will. Unfortunately, we take a little bit more damage this turn, but we're starting to really get set up now. We're up to 6 dexterity. He is going below 240, so we can just take a turn off to... Oh, perfect. We get to play 3 powers this turn and nothing else. He'll heal himself back to 240, which is just not that big of a concern. And we get to play 8 cards next turn. Make sure that this hand looks good. Sorry, get to play 4 cards next turn. So that'll actually... Yeah, we'll play a Shiv, right? Shiv, dodge and roll, dash, or something like that. We have 12 dexterity now as well. We'll just play this Shiv right now. And then play 3 cards next turn. Oh, you know what we can do? Actually, we can reset the clock. No, there's no good reason to. It was better to play this Shiv this turn, though. Because he healed off the damage from that Shiv that we played last turn. He's not attacking, so we don't have to block. I feel like in Phase 2 he blocks more often. I'm not sure if that's true or not. I actually think I will block with dodge and roll. Just because, like, I mean, Dagger Spray is quite a bit of damage, I guess. I don't know. It's so much block. So much block. He ends the turn. He's up to 8 strength. He's attacking for 24 times 3 right now. Unfortunately, we're vulnerable at the moment. On the other hand, we can weaken him, and we have a completely empty clock here, so we can play a bunch of cards. I'm gonna weaken him, play some Cloak and Daggers. And we won't actually take any damage this turn, and we'll deal him quite a lot of damage. We might have wanted to stop playing cards at the end there. We are now no longer vulnerable, so his attacks won't deal anywhere near as much damage. We could Wraith form at this point, if we wanted. We don't have to. It's really up to us whether we want to or not. I think I'm not going to, because it's just awkward. It hits the clock to 12. But yeah, we'll kill him in 3 turns while we have intangible, so that would end the fight. The other stuff we could do ends the fight just as well, as far as I can tell. I guess Wraith Form would have healed us for 2, which might be relevant, if that's something you care about. It doesn't seem super relevant to me. Alright. He's at 7 health, 3 health actually, so he'll die next turn, assuming we draw any reasonable cards. And that's the run. Coming in at a little bit over 3 hours. Guys. There you go. Over-explaining Ascension 15 on silent. I'm glad we got a win. It would have been a little bit less exciting to do all that talking and then like lose at the end. I think that deck showed just how powerful a large deck full of powers can be. It showed how strong relics can be, even when they're just like miscellaneous relics, not the insane relics that you might think of when you're thinking of the best relics in the game, but these are just lots of relics which we just used, you know, semi-intelligently to craft a good turn 1, and then they just provided some like decent value over the rest of fights. Probably the strongest relic here was Birdface Turn. Whenever we play a power, we heal 2 HP. This game is lagging. And yeah, that kept us sustained very, very nicely through all of our fights. Generally, if you get a lot of relics, you'll like find some relic that gives you good sustain, and that's not really a surprise. You'll generally find some relic that interacts pretty well with Shivs. In this run, it was Vajra, and then eventually Duvudal, but there are tons of others which do even better things with Shivs than those do. We just got pretty good relics, made a pretty good deck, and won a fairly good run, I'd say. Got through Act 2 on Silent and Ascension 15 with only 3 energy. I think that a Silent is very, very, very well balanced for Ascension 15 right now. I greatly enjoy playing Silent at the moment. And I hope that this run is an example of the things that you can do on Silent. I've heard so many people say like Silent cannot take on Act 1 elites and stuff like that. I don't think that's true at all. I think Silent's card pool is very good for taking on Act 1 elites. And I also think, like I've heard people say that like Silent's cards aren't good enough to handle Ascension 15. I think that Silent interacts with relics incredibly well. Silent's cards interact very, very well with relics. So my strategy for Silent and Ascension 15 is heavily based around killing elites. I think Silent's cards are very good at killing Act 1 and Act 2 elites, and that Silent's cards interact very well with very, very many relics that you can get off elites. So this was an example of how I play Silent. I believe I took as many elites as possible in Act 1 and Act 2. In Act 3, I identified that Time Eater just wasn't a very big threat to my deck, so I skipped Act 3 elites because they were a little bit threatening, potentially. I think if we fought them, we would have beat them, but we might have taken damage and had to rest or something. And, you know, theoretically, maybe everything goes horrifically wrong and we die somehow. I struggle to think of how, but maybe against, like, Giant Head, we just didn't have enough damage or something. I guess it's a possibility. I hope you guys enjoyed the over-explained Ascension 15 run. My voice is shot. I'm going to stop talking right now. I have links to my Discord and my Twitch TV stuff below the video if you want to come say hi and hang out. Obviously, there are YouTube comments if you have questions about this specific run and want an answer. I'm happy to answer questions that you have about this run. I have a link to my Patreon if you want to support me making more YouTube content in particular. That's where to do that. And I'm, I think, pretty responsive to people asking me to do specific things on Patreon. I'm going to have to update it again because I haven't been doing YouTube stuff for a long time. Yeah, this has been me, John Ribs. I hope you learned something from this run. I think the biggest points were you can play a big deck, but if you do, you want to adjust how you're thinking about playing. Think about setting up a good turn 1 and setting up good relic interactions, and think about drafting cards which tend to do similar things, so like lots of block cards in the case of this deck. Ironclad can have some really good large decks which are like Often the best ones are based on exhausting cards, so getting copies of Feel No Pain and lots of cards which exhaust. Yes, you can build a big deck. You can take on elites with Silent, even in Act 1 and Act 2. Going through Act 2 on 3 energy is not a death sentence if you know, focus on having enough damage to take out fights, which this deck I think was a great example of with 2 upgraded backstabs in it for basically the entire run. And relics are really good if you can work out how to leverage them for, you know, any sort of value, which usually isn't too bad. Philosopher's Stone is not a death sentence. This relic is fine as long as you can kill enemies and as long as you're getting good value out of 1 energy. It was a good run. It was a good run. I'm happy that that run happened. I think that run was consistently interesting, and there were lots of instructive choices, I think, that went on in that one. So, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another Slay the Spire chat. Bye bye.